Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests, thank you for being here. It's going to be, we are in the Christmas holidays right now, or we will be shortly. Some of us are going to see Santa Claus, some of us will want to see Santa Claus pretty soon. And come December 31st or January 1st, some of us will be brave enough to make those resolutions. And by January 31st of next year, many of us will let those resolutions go by the wayside. There's a reason why gym memberships take a jump on January 1st through the 10th, and around the 31st or around the 5th of February they taper down and people stop going. Because we just give up. We write goals and we forget about the purpose. We do not think about the reason. This evening, I'd like to share a few things with you, and I'd like to speak about Toastmasters, but I'm going to conclude it by bringing it back to how I started this speech about purpose. Now, for the benefit of our guests, I can sit and tell you that Toastmasters is 75 years old or 100 years old, and could be 3,000 years old as well. I have seen Toastmasters who look as old as 2,000 years. And I'm not referring to my mentor. But the truth is, for the benefit of our guests, and even for the benefit of our newer members here, the organization called Toastmasters holds very little value unless we know what it's going to do for us. Many of us need to have a reason to belong to something. And that's what I was referring to in purpose. So the title of my speech, very appropriately, is called We All Need an Edge. Why do we need an edge? It's quite simply, if I was to ask anyone in this room, do you want to be successful in whatever endeavor you put your heart and mind to, I think very few people would say no. Hopefully, everybody is going to raise their hands and say, yes, I do want to succeed in that endeavor. The institution of Toastmasters is not going to get you there. However, what Toastmasters does for you will definitely help you get there. So what does Toastmasters do? There are 4 basic things that it teaches you. Number 1, we tend to associate this organization with communication, but the most powerful skill that this organization teaches you is the ability to listen. Now, many women in this group will be thinking, yes, I wish my husband or my boyfriend or my significant other would listen a little better, and there is a certain amount of truth to that. There is a certain amount of truth to that. Some of us like to listen to what we want to listen and not as what actually is being told. So when you involve yourself in this organization or in this club or a group of people like us, you typically develop an ability to listen very effectively. It is a skill which we take for granted, particularly if you go into an interview, a question is asked, sometimes we'll give an answer which just doesn't meet the needs of the interviewer. And you can always tell, because if anyone in this room has interviewed an applicant to ask a question and they give you an answer out in left field, you know they've never been part of Toastmasters, because they have not developed the ability to think effectively or listen effectively. The second aspect that you learn is to be able to think. Obviously, you can't think effectively if you don't listen effectively. There is no need to think if you don't listen effectively. You have to respond. So you think, or you listen, you think, and then you respond. Now, some of us will take 2 hours to think of a response. In some cases, as you'll see after the break, you're given training in this organization to think very rapidly. In fact, the time it takes you from your chair to come to the front of the lectern, that's how fast you have to think. Now, many people will say, well, why do I need to think like that? Well, in order to succeed, in order to respond to a question, you need to be able to think very fast. I've seen people who pick up this book called Interviewing for Dummies the night before an interview. And they will memorize the response to perhaps 900 or 1,000 questions, and when they go into the interview, they're asked that one question which wasn't included in Interviewing for Dummies. And they're lost. They will be lost because they have just not developed the ability to think very rapidly on their feet. So the first thing you will learn is to listen. The second thing, to think. The third thing you will do is to communicate effectively. We've seen Henry grow. Many of us have seen Henry grow in this organization from his first speech, where he was taking baby steps, to his fourth speech, where he, by his own admission, slipped a little behind and then came back again. But look at him today. From his first speech to his 10th speech, he is polished. He is very polished in a relative term. Obviously, he has not spoken as much as Richard has, perhaps. He's not spoken as much as Linda has. He's not spoken as much as Lee has. By the time he's there, he's going to give us stiff competition. He's already developing a presence. Effective communication is a skill. We learn to talk as kids, we grow up, and we take it for granted. Yes, if you can talk, you can communicate. No, that's not quite true. Here is the trick. The art of effective communication is the response that you want from the person that you are communicating to. Think about that for just a moment. The art of effective communication is the response that you want either from the person that you're communicating to or a group of people. Otherwise, you're simply talking. If you go into an interview, you want the job. You want that response. Yes, you got the job. If you're asking an attractive lady to marry you, you don't want her to say no, obviously. Unless you're a sadist. If you really like her, you want to get married to her, and you ask her to marry you, and you want to know, okay, I'll go to the next one and ask her. So the art of effective communication, the art of effective communication is really the response that you want. 3 skills. Number 1, the ability to listen, and listen very effectively, the ability to think, and the ability to effectively communicate. Now think of a leader today, any leader, whether it's a corporate leader. I admire Jack Welch. Many of you may admire Mahatma Gandhi. Some people may admire anybody or whoever. Think about their one characteristic that they have. They all communicate effectively. You may agree or disagree with their policies. You may not like them, but you cannot deny the fact that they are effective communicators. So December 31st, make a goal of becoming an effective communicator. Please do that. Not for the sake of Toastmasters. Toastmasters will survive another 100 years. I encourage you to make a commitment to yourself. If you want to succeed in the endeavor that you have set for yourself in life, make a commitment to yourself. Learn how to become an effective communicator. You will not regret it.